All right, time is 6:03, Wednesday, October 15th, 2025. I'm going to call the City of Castle Hills Crime Control Prevention District Board meeting to order and determine if we have a quorum. We have a quorum. Number two, citizen comments. We don't have any citizens to speak. Can we use this time to introduce the new police chief? Chief
We
McCollum?
have our new police chief here who started October 1st, Gary McComb.
And you're still here.
Yeah, fortunately not just, former deputy of the chief of police, but, definitely, one of my eyes and my wife and I are big. Was up in Salado, prior to coming to here, the ISD's chief, I established their police department before that, of the village's chief. And the city of Gilshoe's, chief and EMC, prior serving, Salado, and then for several years worked on town Prosper as their police captain and assistant. Many years ago, I started, I guess, my law enforcement career in the United States Air Force. So for all intents and purposes, I've been in law enforcement since, the age of 18. So a little over 34 years, if you can do the math. So I'm happy to be here, enjoyed it. We've got to hit the ground running and looking at a lot of things, a lot of moving parts, but ecstatic to be here. So.
Thank you, Chief. All right, move on to the consent agenda. Approval of the Crime Control Prevention District meeting minutes for June 25th, 2025. Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion is written.
Second.
Motion made by Bruce Smiley Califf, second by Frank Paul. All in favor? Unanimous? All right, new business. Let's introduce the new members. We have Frank Paul and we have Bruce Smiley Califf. Tell us a little bit about yourselves, if we don't already know.
I think probably everybody up here knows me mostly, so for good or for bad.
And Bruce, welcome. All right, 4.2, election to officers. Do I have a nomination for president?
Mr. President, I'd like to make a motion. I'd like to nominate Chance Kaufman to continue as president of the board.
Do I have a second?
I'll second the motion.
Second by Scott Whitty. All in favor? Unanimous, thank you. All right, vice president. Do I have a nomination for vice president?
I'd like to nominate Brian.
All right, nomination for Brian Maselli by Scott Whitty. Do I have
I'll
a
second that. I'll
second by Bruce Smiley Califf? All in favor? Unanimous? All right, secretary. I would like to nominate Nicole. Nicole has been doing a fantastic job. Since she's taken over, the meeting minutes have been very thorough and concise.
I second the motion.
All right. Nomination by Chance Kaufman, second by Frank Paul. All in favor? Unanimous? All right. 4.3, report from the city manager on the status of the separate crime control prevention district bank account. Mr. City Manager.
I think we can discuss. I think we can discuss items 4.3 and 4.4 together since they all kind of tie together. Sometime, as you recall, or to update everybody, sometime over the spring, the interim city manager, Mr. Perales, made some changes to the CCPD bank account, and essentially closed a second account and pulled the cash as part of the city's main bank account. I don't know if what consultation, if any, was between the board and Mr. Perales when that happened. And since then, there have been requests made to go back to having the separate bank accounts. There have been requests made to have the CCPD board members as the signatories of the bank account, and for checks that would come out of that account for expenditures. Since this came to my attention after I started working here in June, we've been looking into it. It is very difficult to find other communities' CCPD guidelines or bylaws. I don't think a lot of them have adopted bylaws. But I was not able to find another CCPD that is having board members sign checks. As the city manager, who is ultimately responsible for every penny of the city's money, including CCPD, that is public money. It's not, it's sales tax, it's public money. As the person who, when one penny is missing, the buck stops here. Fiduciary and financial controls need to be in place, and they would not recommend, I would not recommend having board members as signing signatories on the bank account. I would also not recommend that there be a separate bank account. We have fund accounting. You can have money in a bank account, and that bank account essentially has walls that separate funds. So you can have the CCPD fund under the umbrella of this large account, and you can still trace every dollar going in and out. That is fund accounting. That is not, and I believe that is meeting the spirit of the state law. It meets that law. I don't think there's a literal interpretation of that law that says you must have a separate bank account. I would be willing, because the city attorney has given me an opinion that suggests that that's what we should do. We would be willing to go ahead and go back to having a separate bank account, if that's what's going to satisfy the board. But at the end of the day, the signatories will have to be city staff and city officials. The two signatories for the city right now are the mayor and myself. I would suggest for the CCPD account, we add the police chief. So there would be 3 people that could sign a check in case the mayor or myself was unavailable.
After reviewing the statute quite, as you all have, I think it's quite advisable to have a segregated separate account number, CCPD, wherever, account set up. I do concur with the city manager that the signators, I think the care, custody, and control, for lack of a better term, that's called for by the state policies or rules, the law, I think are satisfied by the fact that the board sets the budget and that no monies can be dispersed that's not in the approved budget that has come through us. I know there's some various discussion on that particular item. At one time, the city had separate accounts in different things set up, i.e. Fiesta, i.e. crime control, some other things. And it really got unmanageable from a signatory standpoint, because we probably, out of crime control budget, it looks like there's probably a maximum of 8 checks written a year. And that's, I think, well within the control. I do have a question. Has the auditor come in with an opinion on this?
Yes. So, I believe at some point the auditor was asked for their, opinion on this, and they, concurred on the bank account. We've never talked to them about the signatories. On the bank account, they felt that the AG's opinion and the city attorney's opinion was satisfactory. We later met with them, the auditor, when we were doing the bid award for the auditing services for the city, and had a second conversation with them and asked them to, again, please explain your opinion. And we discussed how fund accounting works. As our auditor, you know how fund accounting works, and asked them, how did you get to that conclusion, understanding our fund accounting? How are you making this an issue for Castle Hills when some of your other clients are doing it according to your opinion outside of state law? And you haven't identified that issue to them for years. You know, so either are we special? You know, what makes Castle Hills different from your other clients that are in the same boat? So I think that individual maybe realized that perhaps their initial opinion was given in haste.
Thank you. In the, and I'm sorry, let me, if you'll allow me, please, to finish my thought. As far as signatures go, historically, it has always been the crime control board's representative signature has been the chief. That has been customary. It's been the chief of police. And that's historically since it's begun. I don't know for a while if it moved off to a different signature. It didn't. In your structure of the mayor and the city manager signing checks, I think for the crime control district, I personally would be more comfortable if it was a city manager and the chief is the primary signatures and the mayor is the backup. I say that only in my own experience. I very rarely signed a check unless someone was out of town as mayor. The chief of police, he is our guy, you know, and that's not out of any disrespect for anybody on the board. It isn't a matter of trust. It's a matter of flow, an easy flow for the city to do its business. Anyway, thank you. I appreciate that.
Can I have a comment? How do we get off base? What justification, are you aware of any justification that the prior city manager decided this is the way we're going to do it? Do you have any idea?
I can't speak for Mr. Perales, but I believe his experience was, it was not a separate bank account. I don't think he had worked in a city that had CCPD, that it was separate. I think his experience was, it was always under the city's account. You use fund accounting to keep track of everything. And I believe he felt that was the merit of the law, and that was what was that was the best recommendation, to have the appropriate financial controls in place for him to exercise his fiduciary responsibilities as city manager.
Well, recently in a meeting, I remember the mayor said we need to get it back on track. Like Bruce, I've read the law on it, and it's pretty specific. I don't care about who signs, who doesn't, but I would be definitive that nobody's, I mean, I assume that the only way we'd offer a check and have a signature on it is if the board president or vice president would initial the invoice to approve it. To me, that's the main thing. I mean, we can trace the money's an easy thing, but they've got to prove it because it's their fiduciary responsibility to have some sort of control on what's going on also. That may be a good compromise. But I don't know how it is now, but it's totally got, in my opinion, I was on crime control 4 or 5 years, a couple of years ago, a long time ago, and on some other boards. And when I heard that he had done this, he should have asked questions. I don't care if he has a great idea and he thinks this thing or whomever. Communications is the biggest problem we have with employees. And I know Bruce will agree with that. And if we can't communicate and ask questions before we just make a unilateral move, and I would recommend that everybody in the city make sure that they have communications with somebody that knows why we're doing something and what's going on.
And that was my biggest issue, because if there was a board member that was a signatory, this may not have happened in the first place, and we may not be sitting here discussing this. And I know you disagree with this, but the law is pretty specific. It says the board shall manage, control, and administer the district funds except as provided by section 363-205. Doesn't say may, it says shall.
I believe the law is, when it says that, is speaking to your responsibilities to adopt and manage a budget. And you do that through the budget process. You do that through budget amendments. Those things are done at board meetings. When you authorize purchases, you authorize money moving from, this to that. I think that's that's what it's speaking to when it says that responsibility. As I said, if I believe there should be one account. I do not dispute that Mr. Peralez's interpretation of the law is accurate. I agree it is that is accurate. However, I have a city attorney's opinion that says I should have a separate bank account. With that opinion, I have sufficient latitude to go ahead and go back to having that separate bank account, if that's what the board is seeking. However, I cannot recommend that the signatories on that bank account be anybody other than city officials or city employees.
Okay, let me ask you this. What happens if the CCPD cross multi-jurisdictional lines, which it could? Does
City of Castle Hills is not,
to see who
the city is, the CCPD's boundaries are the city limits.
they are
That's
in
not,
this particular instance, but that's not the way.
I think we need to make decisions based on actual real life situations, not hypothetical scenarios of.
I want to
Down the
clarify
road.
one thing, if I may, for the record. It says right here, it says the board power over funds, the board shall manage, control, administrate the district funds except as provided by section 363, 205. And that section basically talks about the budgeting. So my point is that we do have it. To me, the only real question is signatory, not whether we do the funds back or not, because this is what it says. Now, I prefer to, I
Mass,
for one would like to stick to the law. It doesn't say anything about signatories, so I'm not going to argue that point one way or the other.
may I ask a structural question? Just the way we're set up. And I'm just asking this. We elected Nicole as the secretary. Is she a member of this board?
The secretary does not have to be a member of the board.
Okay. No, that's fine. You don't have to look for it. Do we not have a treasurer on this board? is this board do not provide for a treasurer?
The law says the treasurer has to be the auditor for the district, which
Which is the city auditor.
yes.
All right. Well, my structural question is, do we have the authority? I'm going around the world on this. I don't mean to. I firmly believe that if it is allowed within the structure, which somebody's going to have to tell me this, I still do not see why the chief can't be the board's signature.
We can,
Yeah. And because, and now I'm going back to, I asked a question before the meeting started. And as y'all know, I'm an insurance freak. We are covered by the city's D&O, which was very important. We have a separate bond, a fidelity bond, which covers us, which is a whole different discussion. But so any board member is covered for either malfeasance or oops insurance, which I like to call D&O insurance. However, in the continuity, we do have to understand that where we're operating as a board, we're not cross-jurisdictional. I firmly believe, and I do believe this from experience, that the true accounting functions of any funds that are overseen by the city, which these funds are overseen by the city, are stay in the actual flow of the city's accounting system, not in the same accounts as provided by law, which we've seemed to have come to the fact that there will be a new separately numbered account for crime control, specifically segregated. But if there's nothing prohibiting this, if I were to make a motion on the next item on the agenda, because I know we combined them, but for actions purposes, it would be the next. I would recommend that our representative on the signature be the chief, as it has been done historically before all the fiascos started. And by the way, I'm a little bit more blunt. This was a real screw up by the former city manager. This is something that never should have happened. We shouldn't be sitting up here today doing this. It never should have been, the other account shouldn't have been dissolved. The chief should have always been the signature on the account, as it has been since day one. And as we find ourselves on other situations in the city, sometimes we just have to sit down and fix it. And I really believe that we don't want to recreate the wheel from a city accounting and audit standpoint. But we do have to fall within the law of having separate accounts. Okay. Thank you.
I don't think you need to have a motion well, there is no motion or vote on item 4.3. We will make every attempt to have the separate bank account established by no later than Monday, November the 3rd. Wait, is that right?
Number 4 does call for action.
Yeah, no, I'm just getting past the bank account thing.
Well, that specifically 4 does do the bank account. Look at the action item.
No, that's signatories.
Signatories.
Oh, the signatories. Okay. Well, okay, but I mean, do we, on the action, so are we on that item yet?
Well,
Are you all satisfied with that, to go ahead and have the separate bank account
yes.
by November the 3rd?
I know, I was just asking for, that we were talking about combining them. Okay, Chance, I'm sorry. Are we on the next one yet?
No, we can be. I mean, if he's finished with his report. 4.4, discussion and possible action on signatories for the Crime Control Prevention District checking account. So, you want,
Oh, yeah, I'll make a motion
City.
on this. Yeah, I would like to make a motion that the signator that represents the board on the segregated checking account, we designate the chief of police to be our signator.
okay,
And that is so the 2 primary signatories on the account would be the mayor who's on everything. And the chief of police are the primaries with the mayor as the backup in the absence of the other two. The city manager, I'm sorry, the city manager and the chief. Who did I say? I'm sorry, city manager and the chief, and then the mayor is the backup. Yeah.
So the issue I have with, I don't have an issue with the police chief being on the signatory. I still think there needs to be a board member that accompanies it.
Well, I really like your idea of the board member initialing, the president of the board, I think should initial any disbursement as having seen it acknowledged.
Well, that's all fine and good, but the reason we're in this is because the signatories were part of the city and they started changing things without board knowledge.
You're not going to do that anymore, are you, sir?
My name is not Ryan Rapoli and my name is not Gilbert Perales. I believe that with all due respect, both of them were acting within their roles as city manager and were doing what they believed was in the best interest of the city of Castle Hills. I know both of them and I don't think they did anything with malicious intent, with any intent to disrespect this board. I think they felt that action needed to be taken. And as city manager, they had to take immediate action. As I've explained to the board chairman, communication probably could have saved a lot of headaches. But, you know, I don't have a time machine to go back in time to have better communication, to have given you all a heads up of, hey, there's an issue. I feel we need to do this. You know, what's done is done.
Is there anything that prohibits this board, if in fact this were to happen again, Chance, of you calling a meeting and fixing it? No.
No, I just need to know that it happened.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Well, you'll know,
No until after the fact.
Nora,
Yes,
you'll let Chance know if it happens again.
of course.
What
But
I would
and-
ask,
going on the invoices about the initialing, in the past, again, from here on, if y'all change policy, that's different. In the past, the chief of police has always been the responsible party as far as paying any kind of invoices out of CCPD budget or fund. He would in turn bring financials to the board at every meeting. That would show, at one point, he went to the extent of bringing canceled checks and all this other stuff, but, and this was when Chief Zuniga was, in charge. The previous acting chief never brought financials to y'all, but he would bring a general ledger like this, which lists whatever expenditures have been done from this date to that date. Some of the purchases that are done through a debit card that CCPD has or had when it had an account by itself. And it's all structured. The financials were part of regular meeting and it had he would bring a copy of the invoice too. But the chief had full control as far as expenditures.
Would you provide the board as the financial officer for the city? Would you warrant this board that if there was any change in the structure of anything that's been decided tonight, you will notify the president within 3 days?
Yes, I would.
And I think we should say any attempted change.
Attempt to change.
'Cause we'll
Yeah,
stop-
I mean, this is, guys, nobody's fighting anybody on this. It's just, you know, we don't want to make your lives miserable as far as just general accounting. At the same time, we have to be assured, and the president has to be doubly assured as president that he isn't being thrown out on the line on something he hasn't authorized.
on one of the
It's not just
things
me
that,
authorizing it, it's the whole board authorizing it.
Well, I know, but I mean, you're the horse.
one of the things we want to be clear on invoices. This budget is focused almost entirely on payroll. So I think we do not need to, payroll is not invoices. I would ask for that.
The
distinction.
invoice was not part of the motion. The motion was just that the structure of the signatories.
But we were saying that the board, somebody from the board would be blessing invoices. I would want to make sure that there's a distinction that they're not going to be blessing payroll.
No. okay.
Purchasing,
Yeah.
right, purchasing, not payroll.
What is your, and I haven't caught up on this recently, what's your sole purchase limit now as CM without,
Mine,
yeah.
25.
I think, that truthfully, we could put in this whole discussion that anything that was dispensed outside of payroll over $25,000, the board would be notified of, just notified. Does that?
It shouldn't be anything anyway, because all the purchases will come from the board. And like you said, the payroll, the way they did this, $300-something thousand last time, it kind of a different goose, if you will.
Right, yes.
You don't need to get us signatures on that. That's something that they're going to be responsible.
Are you comfortable with all that?
I'm comfortable with whatever y'all are comfortable with.
Some of these invoices, and I mean, they're monthly expenditures. So, and I guess I need a clarification if we can't, we're gonna put stuff on hold till I get an initial. But it's IT, Tyler Technology, all of this is just monthly expenditures that happen every month.
I think we're talking about exception expenditures, anything that is not on the budget. Or am I misstating that, guys? Or
Because, I mean,
in other words, if you're on the approved budget and you're dispersing per the approved budget, it's already gone through the system. If there's any kind of exception expenditure, I believe an exception expenditure should come before the board.
And it does.
Yes.
And at that point, really all we need to do is meet at least once a quarter and go over what's been spent.
Right.
Motion.
I made the motion. Okay, let me restate the motion. The motion is, I'm making a motion that in regard as worded on 4.4, that the signatures for Crime Control Board is the city manager and the chief of police as the primary signatories and the mayor as it is in everything else, the backup. Are there any other signatories? Okay. That's my motion.
Okay, I have a motion by Bruce, second by Frank. All in favor?
Hey, I just have a quick question. So I know we all have the notes, right, to reflect this change, but I guess I'm thinking to avoid it from occurring again, right? I think that seems to be an issue. How is this process documented? Is it the notes? Is there more than the notes? Okay. But outside of the minutes, is that it? Is there like, I guess, a process flow or something of that nature to kind of show?
What we can do is we can reform the Policies and Procedures Committee
Okay.
and just have it running. And then that way, we can't do it now. We'd have to do it at the next meeting, but I can make sure that's on the agenda and we can update the policies and procedures as we go along.
Thank you.
All right. Discussion and possible action on scheduling the next meeting date. We're fast coming into the holidays. When's the new quarter start?
We're all ready for the next, you're in.
Could you use the mic, please, chief?
I'm sorry. I thought I had a big enough mouth. For my own edification, I guess being the new guy, I'll get that good out of the phrase as long as I can. So I apologize, Nora, for saying that too much here lately. But generally, how often have we met? Is it every quarter? Approximate?
It all depends on who the chief was at the
Okay.
time. I would like to see us meet at least once a quarter.
Okay. If that's the board's preference, and I guess kind of stepping back in terms of financial, kind of reflecting back on, I guess, past experience with similar committees and so forth, I would be, more than happy, and I guess in my mind, it would be more than appropriate for me to provide a financial, I guess, overview of everything. And again, it may be redundant, that's fine, but at the same time, that keeps everybody from a transparency standpoint in the know of exactly what has gone on since our last quarter, each and every time, and that I will provide an overview through our agenda in terms of what's gone on, that will be just a regular item that we will plan on. It
Mhm.
won't be intermittent. It will be consistent in terms of this is what's occurred since we've last met. These were the expenditures, regardless of whether they were prior approved or not, or unforeseeables. I would still want to outline that for y'all. That way that
We can just have a
alleviates.
running agenda item.
Yes, sir.
Chief's financial report.
Yes, that way, and there's anything else that I need to address in terms of that, I would encompass it in that, but that way it alleviates anything going forward of any sense in any way, shape, or form, because obviously we're dealing with public funds, and I'm preaching to the choir when I say this, but out of an abundance of caution and then some, I want to make abundantly sure, and I'll use that word again, that we are being transparent, and if I'm the one that, is one of the signatories for that, then I'm going to take that job very seriously, or that role very seriously, and provide those statements and provide that overview on a consistent basis. That way, y'all as the board understand that, okay, as part of our regular way of doing business, I'm going to provide this to y'all, and it answers that question before there's ever a question, whatever that may be, in terms of what's going on. And again, you as the board, if you are good with that, I will be prepared to do that on a consistent quarterly basis going forward. And then since it's October, I guess, do we want to look at this, from a quarterly standpoint? Do we try to align it with our fiscal year in terms of,
Yes.
okay, so then that would be October, November, December, and January. So right after the first of the year, the first couple of weeks of January would probably be an appropriate time. Is that
Right.
fair to say?
Well,
Okay.
and that's what I was thinking, because everybody's going to disperse for the holidays,
sir.
and it's just hard getting everybody unless something comes up.
January 14th is the Wednesday after the city council meeting.
On the website, when I first got appointed, I saw the website, it says crime control meets quarterly, and it had a certain, like the second Monday or something, going with that.
I don't think the website's been updated.
Oh, I know it hadn't. I mean, that I know, but what I'm saying is
Because
that
according
name
to the
for
website, we're
planning,
supposed to be meeting at 6:30.
So don't.
if we're deciding, and I'm saying this from a scheduling point for all of us, if we're deciding we're going to have a quarterly meeting where
Well,
we're
at
going to
least
finish,
quarterly meeting.
at least, why don't we set whatever that, if it's the second Monday, the fifth Wednesday, whatever it is, because that way we can plan ahead and know when we have to be
Well,
here or
that's-
not be
That's
here.
what we're all discussing right now.
Yeah, that's,
So you said January 14th? Is everybody good with that date as of right now?
so right now.
It'll be a Wednesday.
That. So actually, if we were planning quarterly, then the second Wednesday on the quarterly date could be a good date for planning. Does that sound reasonable?
That's up to y'all.
Yeah, that way we can,
April 8th looks like, if I'm looking at the calendar correctly, after January 14th. Yes, ma'am. Second Wednesday.
But we usually just do this one meeting ahead. We don't plan out the whole year because of the budget and everything else.
okay, I didn't know.
Think about that.
And then come after the January meeting, we'll plan the next one, because he may have something he wants to bring to the board and
14th.
15th. All right, do I have a motion for January 14th? At 6 PM?
I'll second it.
have a motion by Valerie and then a second by Scott Whitty. All right, do we have any board member comments?
Do we
Oh,
have a vote?
I'm sorry, jumping ahead, sorry. All in favor? Unanimous. Do we have any board member comments? Anybody?
The Police Officers Association is having a fundraiser on, November first. They're doing a barbecue fundraiser,
When is it?
the first,
First November?
Saturday, the first. Here. In the community room? Yeah, it's in the community room.
Okay.
I think they're doing barbecue, they're doing raffles.
I,
Skip me-
I,
skip me
I need to
thing.
go buy an ATM machine because I told Raymond I'd get.
25th, next Saturday, their, CHCO is having their trunk or treat event at the elementary campus. They're having a glow party in the commons after the kids get all sugared up. So that'll be that day, and then, we're scheduled to have the lighting of the lights on, Sunday, November the 30th. That'll be the kickoff of Christmas, the Sunday after Thanksgiving.
And what,
Kickoff of the holiday,
Where will the, officers, fundraiser be?
the community
Community
room.
room.
Oh,
Here.
As I know last time they had at the Aggie Park,
That was a different kind of fundraiser though.
Police Association, I know before.
That was, yeah.
and one of the things I'll take this opportunity because the city manager and I have discussed this briefly as recently as today. And this is not a negative, this is not a positive, it's just a separational, I guess, comment that going forward as the police chief, I want to, a lot of our community programs, I want to take those and spearhead those from the police department standpoint. Not all, I mean, that's just not the way it works, but things such as National Night Out, maybe Coffee with a Cop, Blue Santa or Cops with a Claws, whatever. I mean, there's different names and so forth. And there's some other community programs that I want to look at to be spearheaded through the police department. I just don't want us to get, because it gets, and again, won't go off in the weeds, not necessarily germane to what we're talking about, but that it creates a gray and kind of ambiguous discussion. Is it police association or is it police department? So going forward, I want to do, and again, I want to partner with the police
I think that's a good
association.
idea.
Well, the general public doesn't differentiate. the
Yeah,
two.
and it gets on a slippery slope, or it can create unnecessary ambiguity and confusion that we can avoid, because there are some, potential legal issues that we could get into if is it association or as a nonprofit, or is it our local municipal police department? And I just don't want us to get into that realm. When it's all positive stuff, I want to definitely partner with the police association and then some. Very supportive of our police association, 100%. But from a community standpoint, as y'all's police chief and Castle Hills police chief, I want to do my part to separate those things appropriately to guide those through to where, okay, it's coming from Castle Hills Police Department and work with the association that is coming through the Castle Hills Police Association. Again, I know that sounds like semantics, but I think in a lot of ways we'll be more successful longer term by doing that, going forward with a lot of different community events. Since that was kind of related to what we were talking about, I wanted to mention that in there briefly.
Anybody else have anything? Do I have a motion to adjourn? Motion made by Bruce. Do I have a second? Second by Anna Frias. Meeting adjourned at 6:47.